In the remote town of Hollow Creek, nestled between craggy hills and dense woods, an old radio station stood abandoned. It had once been the heartbeat of the community, but after a series of strange events including unexplained transmissions and the mysterious disappearance of the DJ-WCRK fell silent. Locals whispered about the ghost broadcasts, tales of eerie voices seeping through the static, but few dared to venture near. One chilly October evening, a group of college friends Sam, Mia, Jake, and Lila decided to explore the infamous station for a Halloween video project. Armed with flashlights and a vintage tape recorder, they approached the crumbling building, ivy creeping up the walls like fingers grasping for help. "Are you guys sure about this?" Lila asked, glancing at the darkened windows. "I heard the DJ went missing right after a strange broadcast." "Come on, it'll be fun," Mia insisted, her excitement palpable. They pushed open the door, which groaned in protest, revealing a dusty lobby littered with old records and faded posters. The air was thick with the smell of mildew, and shadows danced in the corners, just out of reach of their flashlights. They set up their equipment in the main studio, where an ancient soundboard still sat, tangled in wires. Sam flicked a switch and the room hummed to life. "Let's see if we can catch anything," he said, grinning. Mia spoke into the microphone, her voice echoing in the empty room. "This is WCRK, coming to you live from the abandoned station of Hollow Creek." They all laughed nervously, but when Mia finished, an eerie silence hung in the air. Suddenly, the tape recorder whirred to life, capturing an odd, distorted voice layered beneath static. "Help, help us," it pleaded, chilling them to the bone. Lila gasped. "Did you hear that?" They played the recording back, and the voice was unmistakable. "Help us, help us." It was hauntingly clear, but the words faded into a low, mournful moan. Sam's bravado wavered. "Maybe we should just get out of here." But Mia was determined. "No, we need to figure this out. Let's try the control room." They climbed the stairs to the dimly lit second floor, where the walls were lined with old studio equipment. Dust coated everything like a protective layer. As they explored, Jake found a rusty old microphone sitting on a desk. "Check this out," he called. But when he picked it up, a shudder coursed through the room. The air grew heavier, the shadows lengthening around them. The others exchanged uneasy glances. "Let's record again," Mia suggested, and they all gathered around the mic. They started asking questions, half-heartedly, but each inquiry was met with silence. Just as they were about to give up, a crackling sound filled the air, followed by another voice faint, yet chilling. "We never left." Panic surged as they glanced at one another, realizing the voice was not just part of the static. It was coming from somewhere in the room. They spun around, flashlights sweeping across the darkness. Shadows twisted and morphed, and Lila felt a cold draft brush past her, sending chills down her spine. "Did you feel that?" she whispered. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the control room door slammed shut, trapping them inside. They screamed, pounding on the door, but it held firm. The shadows coalesced into figures vague, sorrowful shapes that seemed to weep and reach out, their mouths moving in silent agony. "Help us?" they echoed, and the friends realized these were the spirits of the DJ and the lost townsfolk, trapped by their final broadcast, unable to move on. Frantically, Sam grabbed the tape recorder. "We need to get this out of here. We can expose what happened." He pressed record, but the machine whirred ominously, then fell silent. The figures loomed closer, their expressions twisted with despair. "You cannot leave." As the room plunged into darkness, panic consumed them. Lila screamed, her voice swallowed by the shadows. In that moment, Mia felt a cold hand grasp her wrist. "You're one of us now," it whispered, and the room filled with the sound of distant static. With a final desperate push, Jake hurled himself at the door. It burst open, and they tumbled out into the corridor, gasping for air. They raced down the stairs and out of the building, not daring to look back. As they reached the safety of their car, Mia clutched the recorder tightly. "What if they're still trapped?" she whispered, her voice trembling. They all felt the weight of the unanswered questions, the lingering fear that the spirits of Hollow Creek would never find peace. Months passed, and the friends tried to forget that night, but the memories haunted them. Then one evening, Lila stumbled across an old news article online about a family that had mysteriously vanished in Hollow Creek decades ago. Their final words broadcasted into the night, "Help us, we never left." And as she read the article, the static of a radio turned on somewhere in her apartment, filling the air with a familiar, chilling voice. "Help us, help us." Lila's heart raced as the static washed over her, pulsing with a rhythm that felt too familiar. She glanced at her phone, but it showed no signs of any app playing music. The sound enveloped her, echoing in the corners of her mind. "Help us, help us." Shaking, she rushed to the window and pulled back the curtain. Outside, the night was still, but the oppressive weight of the darkness felt alive, as if the shadows were breathing in sync with the haunting whispers. She turned back to the room, feeling as if she were being watched. Desperate for answers, Lila decided to call Mia. "You need to come over," she said as soon as her friend answered. "Something's happening. It's about the station, the broadcast." Mia arrived within minutes, her face a mask of concern. "What's going on?" Lila explained about the article and the radio static that had filled her apartment. Mia's eyes widened. "You think it's connected?" Before Lila could respond, the tape recorder on her desk crackled to life. The haunting voices echoed again, sharper this time. "You must listen. Find the truth, before it's too late." The urgency in the voices sent chills down Mia's spine. "We need to go back to the station," she said, her determination matching Lila's fear. "If we can understand what happened, maybe we can help them." With a mix of dread and resolve, the two friends gathered their things and drove back to Hollow Creek. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the overgrown path that led to the station. As they stepped out of the car, the air felt charged, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Entering the station, they were met by the familiar musty scent and the oppressive darkness. The static seemed to linger in the air, almost tangible, and every creak of the old building echoed like a warning. Lila clutched the tape recorder tightly, its presence a lifeline amid the suffocating atmosphere. They made their way back to the control room, where the shadows felt thicker than before. "Let's set up the recorder and ask more questions," Lila suggested, her voice trembling. They positioned the recorder on the desk, its red light blinking ominously. Mia leaned in close to the microphone. "We're here to help. Can you tell us what happened to you?" A moment of silence hung heavy in the air before the static shifted. The voice was clearer this time, more urgent. "The signal, it must not be broken. You must find the last broadcast." "What last broadcast?" Lila asked, her pulse quickening. "Before the storm, we were betrayed. They silenced us." A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, and the shadows flickered as if alive. Lila's heart raced. Betrayed by who? The response came, chilling and resonant. "The one who listens, the one who does not leave." Before they could react, the door slammed shut again, trapping them inside. Panic surged, but Lila fought to stay calm. "We have to find the source of the last broadcast," she urged, glancing around the control room for anything that might lead them to the truth. Mia rummaged through old papers scattered across the desk, her fingers trembling. "There has to be something here," she said. Just then, Lila noticed a dusty old radio tucked in the corner, its dials covered in cobwebs. "Help me with that," Lila said, pointing. Together, they dragged the radio into the center of the room. It looked ancient, almost a relic from another era. "Maybe this is connected to the last broadcast." As they dusted it off, the static grew louder, vibrating through the air. Lila adjusted the knobs, her breath catching as the radio crackled to life. A distorted voice broke through the noise, urgent and frantic. "They're coming. Don't let them take you." "What does that mean?" Mia gasped, eyes wide with fear. Before Lila could answer, the lights flickered violently, and the air turned icy. A shadow swept across the room, coalescing into a figure woman, her face twisted with sorrow and rage. "You should not have come back," she shrieked, her voice echoing off the walls. Lila and Mia backed away, fear gripping them. "We're here to help," Lila pleaded, trying to hold onto her courage. The woman pointed a skeletal finger at the radio. "You must finish what we started. The signal is breaking. You must find the truth before it's too late." As the shadows closed in around them, the voices from the radio became a cacophony of whispers, mixing with the woman's anguished cries. "Help us, we never left." With every ounce of strength, Lila turned the dial again. The voices morphed into a haunting melody, a song of loss and despair. The air thickened, and the shadows pressed closer. Suddenly, Mia cried out, "Look!" She pointed to the wall behind the radio, where something was emerging from the shadows, an old, frayed map of Hollow Creek. The ink faded, but the paths still visible. "The last broadcast, it's marked here," Lila exclaimed, tracing a finger over a specific spot on the map. "We have to go there." But as they prepared to leave, the woman's ghostly figure loomed larger, her face contorted in a mix of sorrow and anger. "You cannot escape. You are bound to this place." The lights flickered once more, and the whispers grew louder, drowning out their thoughts. Lila felt a tugging sensation, as if the station itself was trying to pull her back into its depths. "Stay together," Mia shouted, grabbing Lila's hand. "We can't let them keep us here." With the map clutched tightly, they bolted toward the door, fighting against the rising tide of shadows. As they pushed through the door, the cold fingers of despair tried to claw them back, but they broke free, sprinting into the night. Outside, they stumbled into the cool air, gasping for breath, adrenaline surging through their veins. "We need to find that spot on the map," Lila panted, looking back at the darkened station, which seemed to pulse with a life of its own. As they climbed into the car, Mia glanced at the tape recorder, still recording. "What if it doesn't end here?" she whispered. Lila turned the key in the ignition, determination shining in her eyes. "We'll uncover the truth. We owe it to them." And as they drove toward the unknown, the static from the tape recorder filled the car, whispering secrets from the past. The night was far from over, and Hollow Creek still held its dark mysteries close, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. As Lila and Mia sped away from the station, the map lay sprawled across the dashboard, its worn edges crinkling in the wind. The cold night air whipped through the open windows, but the chill of what they'd just escaped lingered in their bones. "We need to figure out where that mark is," Mia said, her voice steady despite the tremor of fear beneath it. "Let's pull over," Lila suggested, glancing at the dark road ahead. "We need to focus." They found a clearing just off the main road, illuminated by the silvery glow of the moon. The world around them was silent, save for the soft rustling of leaves. They spread the map out on the hood of the car, tracing the lines with their fingers. "There," Lila pointed to a cluster of trees marked with an X. "That's where we need to go. It looks like it's on the edge of the Whispering Woods." Mia shivered at the name but nodded. "Then we have to hurry. We don't know what else could happen if we wait too long." They climbed back into the car, hearts racing as they drove toward the woods. The moon hung high, illuminating the path ahead, but the trees seemed to lean in, shadows stretching and warping, as if eager to swallow them whole. When they reached the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew thicker, and the whispering returned, threading through the trees like an unseen presence. "Do you hear that?" Lila whispered, her pulse quickening. "Yes," Mia said, her eyes wide. "It's like they're calling to us." They parked the car and stepped into the woods, the ground soft beneath their feet, covered in damp leaves and moss. The whispers intensified, swirling around them, a haunting symphony of longing and despair. "Help us. Find us," they echoed, urging them deeper into the darkness. Lila held the map tightly, trying to keep her focus. "It should be just ahead," she murmured, glancing at the symbols and lines that seemed to pulse with energy. As they moved deeper into the woods, the trees grew denser, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers. The path became indistinct, and the shadows loomed larger, draping the forest in a cloak of dread. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, resonating within their minds. Suddenly, Lila stopped, her heart racing. "What if the last broadcast is connected to the missing DJ?" she said, glancing nervously around. Mia's eyes widened. "Do you think he's one of them? Maybe he's trapped in whatever happened here," Lila replied, a wave of determination washing over her. "We have to find him." Just then, they stumbled upon a small clearing, and at its center stood an ancient oak, its trunk twisted and scarred. Lila felt a pull toward it, as if it were beckoning her closer. She approached cautiously, the air humming with a strange energy. Mia hesitated behind her, glancing around. "Lila, I don't like this." Ignoring her friend's warning, Lila reached out and placed her hand on the rough bark. Instantly, the whispers crescendoed, and a surge of images flooded her mind, flashes of the DJ in the studio, frantic and desperate, his face pale with fear. She could hear his voice, distorted but clear. "Don't let them take you." "Mia," Lila gasped, pulling away from the tree. "I saw something. He's here, he's trapped. What do we do?" Mia's voice trembled, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting the shadows to emerge. Lila took a deep breath. "We have to find a way to communicate with him. Maybe if we play the tape from the station, it can reach him." They quickly rummaged through their backpacks, retrieving the tape recorder. Lila pressed play, and the haunting sounds of the last broadcast filled the clearing, intertwining with the whispers in the air. "Help us, we never left." The voices echoed, merging with the melody from the radio, creating a chilling harmony. Suddenly, the air shifted, the ground trembled, and a figure began to materialize before them, a ghostly image of the DJ. His eyes wide with a mix of desperation and relief. "You can't be here," he shouted, his voice merging with the static. "They'll take you." Who? Who will take us?" Lila yelled back, fear gripping her heart. "The ones who listen. The ones who won't let us go. You must finish what we started." His form flickered, as if he was fighting against an unseen force. "Tell us what to do," Mia cried, clutching Lila's arm. "We're here to help." The DJ's face contorted in agony. "You must broadcast the truth. Break the signal. They can't hold us if the story is told." As his words echoed around them, the shadows shifted, swirling like a storm, threatening to engulf them. The whispers grew louder, more chaotic, drowning out everything else. "Help us! Help us!" Lila's mind raced. She had to think fast. "Mia, we need to find a way to break the signal. I saw something in the control room," Mia recalled, her eyes darting. "A switch, something that might turn off the energy binding them." "Then let's go," Lila shouted, determination igniting in her chest. With the tape recorder still playing, they sprinted back toward the direction of the station, dodging branches and fallen logs as the shadows chased after them, their whispers a cacophony of despair. "You can't escape. You are bound to us." Just as they neared the edge of the woods, the temperature dropped sharply. The DJ's image flickered beside them, his expression urging them on. "Hurry! You can do this!" Bursting out of the woods, they raced to the station, fear propelling them forward. The door swung open with a loud creak, and they dove inside, the stale air hitting them like a wall. "Where's that switch?" Lila gasped, her eyes scanning the control room frantically. Mia rushed to the soundboard, eyes wide with urgency. "It was right here," she exclaimed, rummaging through the dust and debris. "There has to be something." As she frantically searched, the whispers began to echo in the room again, creeping into their minds. "Help us! Help us!" Lila felt a surge of desperation. "We don't have time. Just find it." Suddenly, Mia's hand landed on a rusty lever hidden beneath a pile of papers. "Here!" she shouted, pulling it upward. A low rumble echoed through the room, and the walls vibrated as the whispers intensified. "Now what?" Lila yelled, fear surging through her veins. "Hold the tape recorder to the mic," Mia instructed, her hands shaking. We have to broadcast what we've discovered. Lila hurriedly positioned the recorder, her heart pounding. This is Lila and Mia, live from WCRK, revealing the truth behind the last broadcast. The spirits of Hollow Creek have been trapped here for decades, silenced by an unseen force. We're here to break the signal. As the words left her mouth, the room erupted in chaos. The shadows roared, swirling around them, desperate to drown out their voices. But as the tape played back their words, a crackle filled the air, and the whispers transformed into cries of fury. The DJ's ghost stood at the edge of the room, his form shimmering. You can do it. Break the signal. With a surge of adrenaline, Lila pressed on, her voice rising above the noise. We're calling for help. We refuse to let fear bind us. We're here to set you free. The shadows writhed in anger, but with each word they spoke, the pressure in the room began to lift. The whispers grew fainter, their hold loosening. Help us. Break the signal. Suddenly, the radio blared to life, filling the room with the ghostly chorus of the trapped souls. Help us. We never left. We are free. Lila and Mia exchanged hopeful glances, but just then, the temperature plummeted again, and a dark figure loomed in the doorway. A chilling voice echoed, thick with malice. You think you can escape us? The presence filled the room with an overwhelming dread, freezing them in place. You are bound to this place. You belong to us now. Lila felt a surge of defiance. No, we are breaking this cycle. We are here to help. The DJ's spirit surged beside them, glowing brighter. You must finish it. Use the power of the truth. With the weight of their fear pushing down on them, Lila took a deep breath. We won't be silenced. As the malevolent figure lunged forward, they united their voices, calling for the truth, for freedom, for the lost souls that had suffered for too long. The air crackled with energy as the radio blared louder, the chorus of voices merging into a singular plea. The shadows convulsed, the figure shrieking in rage. You cannot win. You are ours. But with each declaration of their intent, the binding force weakened. Lila and Mia pressed on, their voices unwavering, determined to cast out the darkness once and for all. Suddenly, with a final, resounding cry, the air shattered like glass. Light exploded from the radio, illuminating the room in a blinding flash. The shadows shrieked, their forms dissolving into wisps of darkness as the overwhelming light surged forth, enveloping Lila, Mia, and the DJ's spirit. Freedom! The DJ's voice rang out, harmonizing with the chorus of lost souls. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a warm, comforting glow that washed over them. As the light faded, the room transformed. The dusty walls and broken equipment glimmered with a renewed energy, and the whispers turned into soft, grateful murmurs. Lila and Mia blinked in disbelief as the shadows receded completely, leaving behind an air of peace. Thank you, the DJ's spirit whispered, a serene smile spreading across his face. You have set us free. With a final nod, he began to fade, the warmth of his gratitude lingering in the air. Remember our story. Share it. The girls stood in silence, hearts racing, overwhelmed by what they had just experienced. They glanced at the tape recorder, still playing, now filled with a gentle melody, a farewell to the past and a promise for the future. As they exited the station, the moonlight bathed them in silver, the woods now silent and still. They drove back to town, the weight of the world lifted from their shoulders. They had not only uncovered the truth, they had transformed the very fabric of Hollow Creek's haunted history. From that night on, Lila and Mia dedicated themselves to sharing the DJ's story, ensuring the voices of the lost would never fade again. The last broadcast had become a beacon, illuminating the path toward healing, reminding everyone that sometimes the past must be confronted to find peace. And deep in the whispering woods, a soft melody lingered in the air, a promise of freedom and a celebration of the truth finally set free. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.